You just bought a C5 Corvette, and since they are now 20 plus years old, you really don't know the car's maintenance history, and so you're wondering where to start. That's exactly what happened to the owner of the black C5 behind me, this one on this side, and so he reached out to me and together we came up with a list of maintenance checks and tasks to perform. Now, he plans to keep the car for several years to come, so the list we came up with is pretty comprehensive. Here's a little bit more information about this Corvette and its owner. The owner had a 1980 C3 Corvette that he just sold last year to make room for a newer model. Just before winter, a friend of his spotted this beauty on a local dealership lot with only 34,000 miles on it. For a dealership lot, it was aggressively priced to sell because it's not easy to sell a Corvette in Minnesota once the snow flies. So he swooped in, saw that the car was in excellent condition, sealed the deal, and then drove it for a couple of weeks until winter spoiled the fun. So stick around as we go through each of these items in pretty good detail, which should give you a pretty good idea of everything that's involved.
Toys for life.
The first item on the list is a full system scan of all of the C5's modules with the King Bolin K7 bidirectional scan tool. The owner is aware of a diagnostic trouble code for the air injection system, and he's decided to hold off on that for now as we focus on the maintenance items. Let's see if there are any other codes stored away. Here's the air injection code that he mentioned, and other than that, we just have codes for both of the door modules, which in my experience are set often in these cars and typically related to battery voltage abnormalities. The windows and door locks work as they should, so I'm just going to go ahead and print a copy of this first scan and email it to myself, and here's what that looks like. Now I'm going to clear the codes and we will see which ones come back on after our 20-minute test drive. Since several of the door module codes were battery and communication related, I checked the battery terminals and tightened them all as they were a bit loose, and C5s can be finicky about loose battery terminals. By the way, look at this engine compartment. This is definitely a 34,000 mile engine bay. Beautiful. Now let's go for the test drive. The test drive gave me a few observations. First, the oil pressure cold is normal, and upon startup for the first minute or two there was some minor piston slap, which is not at all uncommon for LS engines. The oil pressure with the engine warmed up cruising down the road is normal as well. I did a couple of stop tests and I did notice a little pedal pulsing, which is annoying. Brake check. Brakes are decent, maybe just a tiny hint of pulsing, but not bad. I also noticed what I think could be a dry rear wheel bearing that's a little noisy, not too bad, maybe just a little dried out due to age, which can transmit a little noise into the cabin, especially in the C5s with the large rear cargo area. I accelerated fairly rapidly a couple of times and the engine and transmission seemed to function as expected without any issues or concerns. Once back at the shop, the hot oil pressure at idle is normal, as are all of the other fluid temperatures and voltages. Now let's go ahead and do a second scan and see if any of the codes came back on, other than the air injection code. During the test drive, I started and stopped the engine 4 times, as some codes take a couple of drive cycles to fully set. At this time, it looks like we just have that air injection code, so we're going to leave it for now. Next, let's take a look at the tires, which are good old run flats. The good news is all 4 are in very good condition with most, if not all, of the tread left. The front tires even have those little rubber tags still intact, so they can't have that many miles on them. Then there's the bad news. First, again, the run flats, which are not ideal for handling, and the owner's already aware of this. Second, by taking a look at the date code on the tires, these tires are all 10 years old, with this first one made on the 24th week of 2015. This one is made on the 19th week, this one on the 20th week, and the last one's made on the 24th week as well. So I'm going to top them all off with air and bring them up to 32 psi, and I'll let the owner know that he should seriously consider replacing them. Next, I'm going to replace the fluid in the power steering reservoir. I'll do this first by suctioning out the old fluid using the Mighty Vac. Then I'm going to top it off with fresh fluid, which will ultimately mix with the existing fluid. With only 34,000 miles on this car, I think mixing it is just fine, and I'll suggest doing the same exact thing in a couple of years to the owner. Now let's take a look at the coolant. First, I'll test the freezing and boiling points to make sure it'll protect the engine down to about negative 34 degrees Fahrenheit or so, and it'll protect against boiling over to over 260 degrees Fahrenheit. Then I pour some into a clear glass to check its clarity, and this looks pretty good. In talking with the owner, we decided that if it passes both of these tests, then we'll hold off on replacing it for now. Now let's check the coolant level, and it is a bit low, so I added about 20 ounces of a 50-50 Dexcool and water mix, and now it's right where it should be. A quick inspection of the cap shows the rubber to be in good condition, and so it'll be reused. The engine oil had been changed recently, and it certainly looks fresh to me, and it's topped off perfectly as is. Moving underneath, let's check the automatic transmission fluid. This is a little scary if you haven't done it before, and it is possible to do with the car safely up on good jack stands, but a lift works best. Now start the car, and with your foot on the brake, run it through each gear for a few seconds and watch the transmission temperature on the gauge cluster until it reaches around 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Then leave the car running in park with the emergency brake on and remove the plug on the side of the transmission. Fluid should slowly ooze out if it's at the proper level. If nothing comes out, check it with a tool similar to this one to see how far below the hole it is. If it is more than just a smidge below, go ahead and add some Dextron 3 compatible fluid with a fluid pump. Once the fluid does start to ooze out, then go ahead and replace the plug and you're done. Now let's move back to the differential. We do not need the engine running for this, but I do like the differential to be warm to the touch. Simply remove the fill plug at the rear of the transmission. Be sure to not lose the little crush washer. And then the same rules apply. If the fluid slowly oozes out, it's good. If not, using a nail as a dipstick, insert it into the hole and lower it onto the case, and then remove it. If the edge of the head picks up some fluid, it's good to go. If not, you'll need to top it off with the fluid specified in your manual. Now insert the plug and snug it back up, and you're done. Now let's pop the wheels off and inspect the brakes. Since this C5 only has 37,000 miles, they are likely original. The rotors look good, no grooves or rust where the pad makes contact, and although it's hard to see in the video, there's around a third to a half of the pad material left, so these do not need to be changed anytime soon. Brake hoses are also inspected for cracking or any signs of damage, and fortunately these look good as well. Now let's do a general inspection of the bottom, including the suspension and exhaust, starting at the rear. Someone has installed new exhaust tips. I haven't seen these before, but I like them. The mufflers are stock, and that's the weep hole allowing condensation to drain out. Here's an aftermarket exhaust plate as well, similar to the one on my C5, and someone has installed new end links on the rear anti-sway bar, which is a nice upgrade. This C5 has adjustable shocks, which work really well, and fortunately I don't see any leaks, which is better. It's hard to see, but I do not see any abnormal leakage where the axles enter the differential case and the areas underneath those locations, which is also good. There are no signs of damage to the cradle or the lower A-arms. The driver's side shock looks good as well, no signs of leaks from the transmission, and the exhaust appears to be stock, and since it's made of stainless steel, it only has superficial rust. The rear oxygen sensors are both intact, as are the catalytic converters. There's no signs of leakage from the rear engine main seal, as well as no signs of oil leaking from the pan or anywhere else for that matter. The driver's side front shock looks good, no leaks, as does the passenger side. The front air dam is fully intact, and there are no signs of abnormal leakage coming from the power steering rack, which is yet another plus. The stock front plastic anti-sway bar end links are still in place, and overall the underside of this C5 looks exactly as a 37,000 mile car should. Next up, let's look at the belts and hoses, starting with the smaller hoses leading to the surge tank, and then to the thermostat area, followed by the lower radiator hose and the primary belt. We're looking for any signs of cracking, deterioration, swelling, or anything wearing against the hose. The belt looks good, as do the hoses on this side. and so does the upper radiator hose on the driver's side. And here's another peek at the same belt, and that alternator looks brand new. The owner is concerned his vibration damper may be failing, so I had him apply paint across its face a few weeks ago so we'd be able to tell if its outer ring is separating from the hub. I took this video and it does seem to be wobbling more than it should. However, based upon this several week old paint mark, the outer ring has not moved recently, so I told him for now we should keep a close eye on it going forward for any signs of movement. When it rains, water flows down into this area and onto the ground. The C5 has several udders that direct water safely out of the car, including some on the driver's side and this one on the passenger side. The owner cleaned the ones on the driver's side and asked me to clean this one on the passenger side, which we will do in a moment from down under the car. This C5 has a lead acid battery, and as my frequent viewers know, they can and will leak when exposed to underhood heat, and dripping battery acid can damage the computer, wiring, vacuum lines, and the frame below. From up top, I don't see much cause for concern, but we'll still check from below. To get a good look, this panel is removable by simply removing several 7mm screws and one plastic push pin. There's also 2 or 3 screws from underneath as well. I was expecting this one to look like new, but even this 37,000 mile C5 has previous damage that someone has done some work to try to clean it up and add some primer. This damage is not too bad, but as I keep preaching, if you have a C5 or C6, strongly consider going with an AGM battery to prevent this from happening to your car. Fail to do so and the problem can get worse, much worse. While we're under here, let's clean the passenger side udder, and as it turns out, this one is free from any debris whatsoever, which means it's either been cleaned before or the car has never been left outside long enough to accumulate any debris from trees or other plants. When putting the cover back on, be sure to tighten the screws by hand, as you can easily wreck the screws by running them up with power tools. Next, let's perform the fuel injector balance test. What this test does is cycles the fuel pump to build up full fuel pressure, then it cycles each injector one by one, and then you compare the ending pressure readings. If you have a clogged or partly clogged fuel injector, its reading will drop less as less fuel is being released because the injector is clogged. Fortunately, this car passes as all of the ending pressure values are very close to each other. The fuel filter is probably not clogged, but 25 years is a long time, and it is possible the filter media may start to deteriorate and break down, so it's getting replaced. It's located in a very tight spot, so I kind of wish I had small hands. Here it is with the filter removed, and since the filters on 2000 C5s include the pressure regulator built into the assembly, they are spendy, and it is important that you get a quality unit because proper fuel pressure is critical, so I use AC Delco. And here's a look at the new filter assembly installed. Bleeding brakes is a good idea as brake fluid absorbs moisture over time and collects debris from the rubber components inside the braking system. I start by removing the old fluid with a vacuum pump, and I always use a fresh piece of tubing on the end that goes into the reservoir, as you do not want to contaminate the brake fluid with even a little bit of any other type of fluid. Then I use fresh .3 brake fluid to refill the reservoir. I broke out my scan tools and neither one wanted to cooperate when bleeding the brakes on this particular 2000 Corvette. ABS bleed for this year's C5 does not appear to be supported by the King Bolin, although it is supported for my 2003 C5 Corvette. And with the autofix, it kept giving me this message. Even though when I went in and checked for brake system codes, there are none. Very odd. I talked to the owner and explained the situation, and he agreed to proceeding with bleeding the 95% of the fluid we can get to by just using the power bleeder alone, and so that's exactly what I did. Here's a look at some of the old fluid in a bottle, and here's what fresh fluid looks like. Now the wheels can go back on, and always use a torque wrench to tighten the nuts. I use 100 pound-feet, but be sure to check your manual to be sure. The last item on the list is to remove the stock air filter. And I would say this one is pretty nasty, so a new one is going in. If you live in Minnesota near the Twin Cities Metro and need some work done on your C5 or C6, shoot me an email and maybe we can work something out. If you learned something from this video, be sure to tap the thumbs up so YouTube knows to share it with the Corvette community, subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and most of all, thanks for watching.